This episode of Dana Being Dana is brought to you by Kim and Katie with John Green Realtor, providing seriously local real estate expertise for the city where we live and love.
Hello and welcome to Dana Being Dana. I'm Dana Michelle and I'm thrilled you're with us. My show is about all different aspects of the human connection, things that bring us together, and living life intentionally. I'm a firm believer of women supporting women because we simply don't do this enough. While men automatically look for connections and similarities, women too often pick each other apart and they tear each other down. But great things happen when women come together, and we are talking to several women today who are doing just that. Joining me now are Jennifer, Adelia, Dodson, and Cory Briggs. Hey ladies, I'm so glad you were here.
Hi Dana.
Hi. Yes. So tell me, what does women supporting women mean to you?
Well, we have to, because we met as moms, we have to take it as women who are mothers.
Okay.
Being supportive of each other. Because that's a special sort of critical survival zone. Mm-hmm. And given that we each have 4, I didn't have 4 when we met, but we still met under the circumstances of like, look at that crazy one.
Yeah. So how did you meet?
Our children went to preschool together.
Yeah. Wow.
So in that case, you know, you have that situation where it's that classic scenario of like the crazy top knot bun thing and the sweats and you smell and people are barfing on you, you know? So then you automatically find your support person in that regard.
Yeah.
And we were just lucky that our levels of chaos kind of matched. So we were able to just like immediately start talking and connecting without having any of those barriers of like trying to be polite or pretend or anything.
So how old are those preschool kids when you met? How old are they now?
16 now.
Well, it was the older 2,
Yeah?
And then the 13-year-olds.
Yeah? Nice. What advice do you have for other women who are navigating parenthood?
Oh, God. One thing I would say is to look at the big picture. Don't always stress about what's happening right this second.
Yeah.
And be open and give yourself all the grace in the world.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I think that's great advice now, particularly this year of 2020 being so crazy. And the big picture is that it may be a year, you know, of our lives, give or take. But the bigger picture is, you know, the lessons learned and all of those things. So what is 2 moms and a mic?
It's a womanifestation of Cory's dream.
It's a podcast that was born out of our chaos.
It was born out of chaos. Chaos is made out of energy, and sometimes things are born from it.
Yeah, which I think is great. And I love the fact that you had an idea, you had a dream, and you brought it together. And I love the fact that you've done it together. Yeah. What's been the scariest thing about starting a podcast?
For me, it was the judgment of the topics that we like to cover.
You have to be vulnerable. You cannot put yourself out there and then like pull it back with anxiety.
Yeah. Well, no one wants to listen to inauthenticity.
Well, right. And plus, we don't know how to do that.
Of course. Of course, you guys are some of the realest mamas I know, which is why I love you. And it was a pleasure to be on your podcast.
It was fun.
We had a blast.
It was really
so much fun.
We had such a good time. And so I'm thankful that you all are here. I think people underestimate the work and energy that goes into putting together media content and sharing and being vulnerable. So can you talk a little bit about that and what that means to you?
Well, the podcast originally started with one microphone in my house. All the technical stuff we just learned as we went. We watched YouTube videos.
Like we put pillows against the door.
Oh yeah, we were
clearing our throat with bourbon. You know.
We did. We put blankets and pillows up to, you know, for the sound, and You know, it started as very, very basic.
Yeah.
And now, today, a year later, we are in a professional recording studio.
And it looks good, honey.
We thank you. We have sponsors, and so
we've been adopted by producers of people of talent.
Yeah.
So we can just keep living the chaos and talking it.
I love it.
Yeah.
It's awesome. What are you most proud of?
For me, I'm most proud of the fact that we have found this community of mothers that had once felt so isolated in this journey of motherhood, especially with the teenagers, because this whole idea of our podcast came up originally when we kind of started navigating the teenage years. And we weren't finding a whole lot of support in that because the teenage topics are not comfortable topics to talk about.
Right.
We're not talking about your little toddler, what do you do when they throw a temper tantrum in the middle of Target? You know, we're not talking about if one of your little kids has a poop explosion in public.
Oh my God.
You're talking about real
things.
Real heavy,
Scarier
raw,
things.
Scary topics.
And I think it's tough being a teenager now.
Oh.
I think you know, depression, suicide, anxiety, all of those things are much higher. And the things that teenagers are doing, you know, are very different than when we were growing up. Their
The
exposure.
social media.
We could TikTok with you though, Dana, if
We,
you want.
we can totally do that. You want to do that? We could do that. We could do that.
The social media is a big part of the difference between when we were growing up
True.
and the world that they live in now.
Because all of their mistakes are documented.
Yeah.
All of them.
All of them are documented.
And the comparison of, you know, especially the girls, the comparison of what teen girls
All the
look
media.
like, and
Yeah.
the filters, and why am I not that pretty, and you know, and so as mothers, we found it really challenging to parent these types of issues, and we felt like there were so many resources when you have little kids, but then when you hit the teenage years, where is everybody?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to talk about these topics anymore. So that's kind of where we came in and tried to build a community.
You're not trying. You ladies are doing it. What advice do you have for people who are watching who want to try something new, whether it be a podcast or something else, but they have that creative spirit and energy and they can't think beyond the shoving the pillows under the door, right? Or being amateurs in something that you're passionate about and allowing that to grow and morph into what it becomes. So what advice would you have for women who want to do something but haven't really taken that leap?
I think you have to let yourself suck and fail a little bit and be open to your own growth, because you know when you make a mistake without knowing you're going to make a mistake, you give yourself grace because oops, you made a mistake.
Right.
But this is leaping into something where you know that there will be some episodes that suck, there will be people that are critical, you know things are going to come up, and you have to let yourself fail and be okay with the growth. It's not going to be perfect. So
And that's part of the journey.
it is.
That's part of the journey.
But that's a scary one to take.
True.
We are okay taking it together. I think if we were on our own, it would be like, no, that's okay.
But the fact that you're taking it at all, to me, that is living. And
It
I
is
think
living.
there's a lot of judgment when people are out there living. And I think that's one reason why women tear each other down. Because when someone's trying to do something, when they're putting themselves out there, when they're brave enough or courageous enough.
That is it. When you see someone else's power, right?
Yeah.
You're like, oh, I don't have that, so let me pull theirs down.
So what can we do as women? Where do we go wrong when it comes to supporting other women? What can we do better?
Judgment.
It's the judgment piece, because we all feel it, but you have to check that at the door.
Yeah. And be accountable for what you're bringing in, you know, as its own toxicity, right? Because sometimes women tear each other down and they don't take accountability for, you know what, I was just intimidated because of her shoes.
Thank you for bringing in the shoes and keeping things truly relevant.
We always have to bring in the shoes, but it's true, right? I've seen people tear each other down based off of what they're wearing, how they look.
Of course.
Look at her hair, look at her purse, you know, and we just need to do better in that space. Well, I'm glad you ladies are here. Keep doing what you're doing.
We will.
You're doing
You too, Dana.
amazing work in this
Thank you,
space. We'll take a quick break. We'll be right back. Don't go anywhere. Welcome back to Dana Being Dana, where we are talking about women supporting women. Joining me now are Anita and Wano, who are wealth management financial advisors. Hey, ladies, thank you so much for joining me.
Thanks for allowing us to be here.
So what does women supporting women mean to you?
Well, from my perspective, it comes through with several definitions. I think the woman that is sitting to my right exemplifies that. She's done it for me many times. I think that the best time to do it is when it's least expected. So, for example, Chris and I both work in a very heavily male-dominated industry. And a lot of times sitting in a conference room or a boardroom where you're one of a handful of women and you say something and every woman watching knows this has happened. You'll say something and it's not met with a lot of gusto from the group. Right. And a gentleman says it 5 minutes later and suddenly it's the best idea.
He mansplains you.
Yep. So the best thing for a woman to do, and again, she's done this for me, is kind of give that woman some credence, some credibility. Yeah. Wow, that's a great point. I like that. Or if you don't necessarily agree, just attempt to kind of pull it out into the spotlight anyway, that this woman is bringing something of value to discuss in the middle of the table. Put yourself out there. Take a risk for that other woman sitting at the table. Because you know what? She's going to do that for you.
That's so true. And we can validate each other.
That's exactly right.
In so many ways. And when you do that, I think you set a good precedent for others, including men, to follow.
That's exactly right. Yes.
Right. I think it has to be our future, or things aren't going to change unless we support each other and force that change.
Yeah.
So I think it's really critical.
I think if we want men to respect us and value us in the ways we want to be valued, we have to do that for each other.
That's right.
Speaking of value, can you tell me about women in wealth?
If you think about the industry that we're in, financial services, for the longest time traditionally, right? We've talked about the fact that it's male-dominated, but it also has an impact in the way that we've talked to women, using really specific jargon, intimidating language. The focus with women in wealth is really to focus on financial literacy, financial education, really understanding the basics. There's this concept that women aren't good with money, or that they're too afraid to invest, for example. Couldn't be further from the truth. We can basically make that comment having worked with clients for all of these years, right? So the focus of Women in Wealth is to bring women together, and what we've noticed is when you have them in a smaller forum where there's a safe space to ask each other questions, there's a lot of education that takes place, and once you come from a place of knowledge, then you're better able to make those types of decisions that will ultimately impact the rest of your life.
That's true. Yeah. That's true. In a previous episode, we talked about women in finance.
Yeah.
We talked about relationships and how difficult it is during a pandemic, for example, for women who want to get out of relationships. They don't leave oftentimes because of finances and not having that financial knowledge. How is financial security, particularly for women, a game changer?
I think it starts with the knowledge. Knowledge is power, and so part of the Women in Wealth initiative is to give women that knowledge and to encourage them to be part of the conversations. They don't have to take over the finances in their house if that's not been their role traditionally, but to be involved and to be knowledgeable so that when something does happen, they're prepared to either they have professionals that they have now learned and gotten to know, and so they feel comfortable asking them questions.
Can I just also add, too, wouldn't you say, Chris, that part of it is that it gives you a choice, right? Knowledge and power that come with having that financial background and the ability to make decisions. It just gives you the power of choice. So that, unfortunately, if you are in a bad situation at home, if you're in a bad situation at work, you have that choice to say, no, I don't actually have to live this way, and I can make the choice to exit.
Yeah.
And that's huge. That's huge for women, and we're still in the midst of that. We haven't conquered that.
Right.
We're still dealing with it.
I think when people don't have the knowledge, they end up living in fear.
That's right.
Because they fear the unknown.
Right.
That's exactly
And they fear the alternative, which is often worse than what it really is.
Right.
I would say that. But go ahead.
I'm sorry, at some point, women are going to be in charge of their finances, whether that's through the death of a marriage or whether that's through the death of a spouse.
Yeah.
They're going to be responsible for this, so they need to, start working now and getting a good understanding.
Yeah. So what advice do you have for women building wealth? I think oftentimes people have a difficulty just taking that first step.
Yeah.
They can be overwhelmed by the process or what to do. So what advice would you have?
I would start with, at least first, and I tend to get very granular because it's my occupation, but just take inventory of what you have. It's amazing sometimes women who have wonderful marriages, right? If you ask them where are the various accounts, do you have a checkings account, do you have a savings account, do you have an investment account, a retirement account for when your husband retires, if you're staying at home, what are the various buckets that you have? It doesn't require a spreadsheet even, just a pencil and a piece of paper. Just start there. Involve him or your significant other, whoever it may be, in the discussion. And if it's just you, start there. Take an inventory of what you have. I'm biased, so I'm going to say work with somebody that you trust as an advisor because they're trained to help. There are many firms out there right now that are recognizing the value of helping women, and there are specific initiatives out there to help women who need that type of assistance. So just start. Just start.
I think one thing that women are really good at are identifying goals. It's so much easier to talk with women about what are your goals for retirement, what are your goals for your family. So by being able to articulate those goals, it really helps our job to set up that financial plan and the strategy so that they can achieve that.
Where do women go wrong when it comes to supporting each other?
Wow.
Just say it.
We can do so many things better, I think. And I want to help people.
I think we want to support each other, but we are so critical of ourselves that I think that comes across to other women because we are extremely critical of ourselves, and we shouldn't be. We should celebrate our own personal successes, and if we're happy with ourselves, I think that'll show to other women.
I think that's so true. I think we can be our worst critic.
Absolutely.
And we see things that people don't even see as flaws see as setbacks or see as issues.
That's right.
And we should certainly do better with that.
I feel sorry for you that you asked me that question because I could go for the next hour on this.
Let's go. Go ahead.
Women
We're not doing
supporting other
commercials.
women. Listen, think about it this way. Women in leadership, right? When you put women in positions of leadership, they really do make the world a better place, not just for them, not just for their families, but for society as a whole. Okay, you can talk about financial services, corporate America, government. It's the world over, right? How are we going to do that when we keep cutting each other down? We need to push each other. One of my biggest passions right now is getting more women into our industry, on the front lines, right? Don't come in and disappear into behind the scenes roles.
Right.
Come in and work with clients, work your way up towards leadership, but we need to pull each other up. So somebody who's had the benefit of working in the industry for as long as Chris and I have, that's our responsibility right now. And stop treating it like a zero-sum game. Me pulling her up does not mean less for me.
Right.
It's a collective win for all of women. And once we change our mindset to believe that, we've got something going.
That's so true. That's so true. I think we can do so many things when we support each other genuinely, authentically, and believe in each other and push that agenda forward. I think it's better for everybody. I think it's an example for all the little girls who are watching. And we can just make incredible change.
Absolutely.
So I thank you ladies for being here. I thank you for the wealth that you build in others. It's so needed, and we appreciate you. We'll take a quick break, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to Dana Being Dana, where we are talking about sisterhood and women supporting women. I am a proud alumna of Spelman College in Atlanta, Georgia, and I am joined now by two of my favorite Spelman sisters, Tiombé Nucklos O'Rourke and Kanika Sloan Williams. What makes me love these ladies even more is how they show up for others, especially women. Hey, ladies.
Hey, girl.
I am so happy you guys are here. Can you tell us what women supporting women means to you?
So I am a alumna of Spelman College. I went to an all-girls high school. I am a huge believer that when women get together, that we can do anything,
Yes.
honestly. When we get together and we put aside any differences and we focus on a goal, we can do anything. And so whether that's, mentoring, whether that's supporting, whether that's sponsoring, whether that's social media, whether that's showing up for a charity, we can raise money, we can move mountains. Our sister Prez says when women lead, streams run uphill. And
Say that again.
She does. Sister Prez, Janetta Cole, actually appropriated an Ethiopian saying. It says, when women lead, streams run uphill.
Streams run
True. Absolutely.
I just think that we need to understand that we don't have to be in competition, that there's room at the top for everybody.
Yep.
Nobody has to, put anybody down. Everybody can be uplifted, and we can do more together.
So Spelman College, all girls, all women's
women.
college, all women's college. Why did you choose Spelman?
So my story is, in a nutshell, I went to Spelman at 16. And so there are only 2 women's colleges for African American women, HBCUs. Spelman is one, Bennett is the other. And so if my parents were going to let their 16-year-old daughter go away to college, it had to be someplace they didn't think there were going to be boys. Unfortunately, Morehouse is literally a matter of yards across the street, and Clark is down the block. But when we came to Spelman, they were just blown away. We were just blown away by the history, the tradition, the amount of women that are trailblazing in almost every field: STEM, legal, medical, art. We've had sister presidents and presidents who have, made their way in museums that have been, again, Dr. Cole was the National Smithsonian curator. I mean, we've done so much amazing things, and all of that is just set out for Spelman. And then you can't beat the sisterhood. You just can't beat the sisterhood.
And it only gets better
with
time.
Yes, absolutely. I thought that I was going to go to Hampton, and then my sister went to Spelman in my freshman year. We're 4 years apart. My freshman year in high school, I came down and visited her. And between the city of Atlanta and stepping on Spelman's campus, I was like, oh, this is where I'm going to be. I didn't even apply to anywhere outside of that AUC center. And the only reason I did the other ones was just to say I didn't apply to one school, but I knew where I was going. It was Spelman all the way.
I went to Spelman my junior year in high school to visit my cousin. And
It's our best recruitment.
It was your class, totally.
Best recruitment.
And that's how it hooks you. I mean, just the bond, the sisterhood, the people, the Southern hospitality. I mean, there were so many things that really drew me in. Kanika, tell us about My Sister's Keeper.
So about 3 years ago, I started a endeavor. We belong to a group called Spelman Moms, and it's a group of moms, and I'm really, really proud of it because I do think affinity groups are important. People need to have spaces that are judgment-free, and you can cry, you can laugh, you can tell crazy jokes, but sometimes people need help, and it's easier to ask for help from family than sometimes it is for strangers. And so I started as a crowdfunding initiative to just say, if you just need help, I'm an attorney by trade, so I will keep it private. Just tell me what you need, and I will come to our community and say, we need to raise money so that we can help a fellow mom get past the hump. Sometimes people don't need $1 million or tens of thousands of dollars. Sometimes they just need groceries. Sometimes they just need rent. Sometimes they just need help getting through a divorce. Sometimes they just need childcare. And if we can crowdfund that for you, if we can support you from, where you might be in a valley to the next part where you can be lifted up onto the mountain, then that's what I want us to do. And so we have people who donate $10 a month. We have people who donate $50 a month. We have people who've donated $500. But literally, again, the power of community. If we have hundreds of people donating, we raise thousands of dollars a month, and then we just distribute that back out to our community that says, and I always tell people, it's a gift. If you can pay it forward when you're in a better situation, and I've had lots of moms pay it forward when they're in a better situation, then we're happy to take that blessing, but you don't owe us. Because sometimes the hardest thing is getting a loan, right? And now you got to figure out how to pay that back.
Right.
You got to figure out how to get interest back, and you got to figure out the stress and the shame of that. That's not what this is. These are your sisters coming together to say, we hear you, we love you, we see you, we want to help you, and we're going to do what we can to make this easy for you, and here you go. And I've had so many moms genuinely just be like, I didn't know what else I was going to do. And I'll give it back to you. You don't have to give it back to me. If you can, pay it back forward to your sisters.
And it's so nice because it's a crucial moment often where having that bridge allows people to go on and bounce back and recover and go on to do great things.
Absolutely.
And not having my sister's keeper available, could lead to so many other negative things that we're not even going to talk about. But that's what's so important about it. And it's such a crucial moment in which my sister's keeper intervenes.
We try to just be, as you said, just be that bridge, right? And so I know you've talked about, the economic cost of divorce. And so we've had moms who are getting divorced and not known what they were going to do and not want to get divorced because they couldn't afford to, right? And so if we can just help them get to the next step, figure out childcare, figure out housing, figure out something else so they can maybe focus on how they can be better moms, how they can be better people, how they can be whole and happy. Maybe we can help you get even mental health support, whatever we can help you get so you can get to that next step. That's what we're here for. That is what family is for. And that's how we show up.
Tiombé, what is 1881 True Blue?
Well, now it's a lot of things, but it initially started out as simply trying to help feed some of the students who had food insecurities in the entire AUC. And in 3 years, that has grown to us paying off balances for students. In less than a year, we've probably raised almost $50,000 for seniors, for freshmen. We've paid off health insurance for students, whatever it is that they may need in that moment. We try to lessen the burden of the economics. So that's what we've been doing the last 3 years.
When it comes to women supporting women, what can we do better to support each other?
So we're really blessed at Spelman that I think we have a basic trust of each other, right? I have put out a call and had literally thousands of people respond without saying, show me your bank account, show me the check, show me, Tiombé, we just raised, tens of thousands of dollars for a student who unfortunately lost a parent, and no one asked us for proof, right? And so I would love if women trusted each other. Now, I know we've all been burned in certain situations, there's scams, there's whatever, but, to the extent that we can find common ground and we can find trust for each other, that we could actually we have so much more in common than we do, than the differences that separate us, right? And so one of the things we can do to support each other is really, really get to know each other's stories so that we can have that level of trust, right? If you say, oh my God, I didn't know you were, your parent died. Like I learned so much about those students that applied whose parents died, and so many of them had something in common, that they are now going through college and their parents died, and now that's an affinity that, other women can have, or that you maybe had a child in college and you didn't know how you were going to struggle. If we could get to know each other's stories, we could build a trust where we're not sometimes so suspicious of each other's motives.
Yeah.
I would simply say there's strength in numbers, and we don't have to buy into the concept of being in competition. There's room for everybody. Together we're more. Just basic. Together we're more.
And you two are my big sisters who have always, when I go through things, and life is hard, right? And it's not always a financial need, but sometimes it's that emotional support, that sisterhood of you can do this, especially when you're coming through valleys. There's hard times. There's hard things professionally, on the job. I think there's hard times in relationships, in marriages. with children, just being parents.
Right.
And I thank you both for being my rocks when I've gone through particularly tough times and just navigating that, because that's what we need so much more of. In the same year, we celebrate 100 years of women's suffrage. A woman of color was nominated for the Vice President of the United States. Regardless of who you vote for, it should be a call to action for women everywhere to be better towards one another. Hear me when I say that celebrating and supporting another woman does not take away from you. Let's be better sisters to one another, be kinder to one another, demonstrating compassion and grace, so we can get out there and do great things. Thank you to the women who have joined me for this episode. Special thanks to Kim and Katie from John Green Realty. This is Women Supporting Women. Hopefully you have been entertained, if not encouraged or inspired. I do not promise to be an expert, nor do I have all the answers. I'm just Dana, being Dana. See you next time.